No, it's
Hi, I am here with dystopian fantasy author Christina Cattane today, and I'm doing a little bit of a flip off my normal contemporary, and I just dystopian fantasy. It's interesting to me. I'm not a fantasy fan, so just so not that up front. So I'm thinking Christina's going to change my mind about that. So Christina, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about your life?
okay. I'm Christina Cattane, and I write Christian dystopian fantasy. I live in Michigan with my husband, who's a pastor, and we have 4 grown children and 2 grandchildren. One of them's only 3 months old, so we're
Oh.
just started smiling. So we're in a really fun period right now with her. I grew up in Alaska, and I've been stuck here in the tropics of Michigan for 30 years.
So you call it the tropics because I
It's
saw
too
you saw this. It's too
hot.
hot. It's too hot in Michigan.
Yes, in
Okay,
the
that's
summer. The winter's
okay.
fine. The summer is too hot.
What does it get to up there in the summertime?
Oh, it can get 90,
Okay.
higher. So, I mean, we have heat snaps where it gets over 90. But anything over 80 to me is just way too hot. And Anchorage, where I grew up, the average daily high in the summer is 65 degrees. So
That's why I don't live in Anchorage. Just saying. I get cold easy. So I would like you to explain to me, and maybe other people out there don't know either. I don't know what dystopian fantasy is and how it is different from regular fantasy.
okay, well, dystopian really is the opposite of utopia. So utopia would be the perfect society, and dystopia is a society that doesn't work.
Okay. Kind of
And
sounds
when
like
I
our country right now.
Well, we live in the dystopia. Yes,
Yeah.
it's real life. But when we write dystopian, we try to exaggerate things so that it's more interesting.
And so in fantasy meaning it's in the future.
Well, it's in the future, but it's fantasy because my main character can see the spiritual world. So she can see the
Oh.
angels and the demons that are battling around her um, while she's trying to fulfill this mission that God sent her on.
So could you have like if could you have a dystopian fantasy set in present day?
Sure,
Wow, okay, that's cool. So but is this one in the future?
it is in the future.
Okay. So what year are we talking about?
Um, like 2246, I think, was
Okay.
like way in the future.
We're in the future. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have I've gone on your website, Christina, and looked at the books that you have, and you have Lost in the Land of the Midnight Sun. That was book number 1.
Yep.
And then Alone in the Land of the Midnight Sun, book number 2. And when did those both come out?
Um, I want to say 2019 for Lost and 2021 for Alone.
Okay. And you have a third book, and what is the name of that one going to be?
Shaken in the Land of the Midnight Sun.
Okay. And that one, so I tell people this because when we are actually interviewing, it could be 2, 3. Sometimes I've got somebody I'm interviewing, they don't want to be on for 5 months. So it's it's way ahead of time. So we're in near the end of February right now, but this is coming out in, we've got you scheduled for, I think we said May 4th. Is that correct? And so this third book comes out in May. So people
I'm
will,
hoping, yes.
okay. And what I'll
Barring
do,
messes.
what's that? Say it again.
Barring any messes.
Okay. And are you indie
I
published?
am indie.
So you have some control over it.
Yeah. And so if it comes back from the editor and she's like, this is a mess, it may take me longer to fix it
Do you
than
usually have that happen?
well, this is only my 3rd book I've written, so I don't
You don't
try to
know.
have any expectations that
Okay.
it's going to be perfect.
Well, there's no such thing as perfect anyway.
Right.
So that
Good
one,
enough or whatever you want to call it.
so I will be sure and I'll put this in the show notes. I always put like a little bit about you. Christina's got a little cold today, so you guys need to give her a little bit of grace here. No, you're fine. I want people to, she's coming here and speaking when she's not feeling her best. So we're going to give you a little grace there. So I will put in the show notes how people can reach you, your website. If you are an Amazon author?
Yes,
where
I
you
am.
have an Amazon. So I'll put the Amazon author link, all that kind of stuff we'll put into the web with the notes of the show notes for this. So you guys can reach her, no problem. You can find her and get her books. So can you tell us a little bit about your, so is this the same character running through each of these books?
Yes.
Main characters. So tell us a little bit about your character.
Okay, well, I got to tell you a little bit of backstory so it makes sense. I was teaching, I'm the Bible study teacher, and I was teaching about the life of Moses. And I was in the part where God was giving Moses the law. And I had this what if question as
I've got to break in. I just read that this morning. I just read that exact passage this morning. Is that weird?
oh,
Okay, sorry
that's
about that.
great.
I just thought it was funny.
So my what if question was, what if we lost the New Testament
Oh,
and we didn't have it anymore? What would our world look like? So
wow. That's scary.
in this dystopia, the government has outlawed the Bible, and these refugees are trying to escape with the last written copy. And they get caught, and the man gives the little boy the Bible, and he fights with the soldier. It gets torn in half, and the little boy falls in the water, clutching the Old Testament. So the people who were waiting on shore see the little boy fall in the water and come and pull him out and take the Old Testament to where the refugees are hiding. The religious refugees are hiding in interior Alaska from the government. So 400 years after that, they have rebuilt the tabernacle of Moses in the Alaskan wilderness. And they've resumed the sacrifices using animals that you can find in Alaska. And my main character is the high priest's daughter.
Okay.
And she feels like she cannot measure up. She can't keep the law. She always messes up. She's never good enough. And she's got some other stuff. Her mother went missing, and she feels like it's her fault, and God won't forgive her. And so God ends up calling her to go find the lost New Testament.
Wow. So yeah, so there is no Jesus in here. I mean, it's in the New Testament, but she's searching for the grace of Jesus Christ.
Never heard of Jesus, and she's never heard of grace.
Wow. Well,
and so it's got like a multi-layer of her needing grace for herself,
right?
But her people also needing grace.
So is it the 3-book series? So we have this last one, Shaken in the Land of the Midnight Sun. Is that going to be wrap up? Is that going to wrap up her story?
Yes, that's what I plan. Yep.
And is there any component of romance or anything of that nature?
But it's a long romance, and it won't culminate until the end of book 3.
Well, if it did, it would be disappointing. It'd be like you have to wait to end it, right?
Yeah, because she finds the New Testament and brings it back in book 1. Sorry, spoiler. But in book 2 and 3, she's searching for the love of her life, who's been taken prisoner.
Oh, wow. See, now I might get into this dystopian fantasy after all, Christina. It sounds interesting. So tell us a little bit about your, well, we were talking ahead before we started recording. We were talking about the Clifton Strengths and the Gallup website. Tell us, it was Write Better, Faster is what you said, right?
Yeah, that's an organization started by Becca Syme, where she does coaching. She coached over 6,000 authors, I believe. And she helps you find your alignment for your writing process so that you can do the best you can, so you can write better, faster. It's not about writing faster, it's about writing better,
right,
but learning to do it faster. And so the Clifton Strengths are a list of strengths. You can take a test, and it says what your top strengths are. And none of them are weaknesses. These are all strengths. It's just that you can use your top ones. You kind of use them already.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of who you are, the top 10.
So you can better access those strengths in order to
right. If you can develop those strengths to be stronger and stronger, then you will be more successful.
Awesome.
It's kind of the theory. And so I found out that my top strengths are all thinking strengths. So I have learner, intellection, which obviously is thinking, input, which means I want to gather all the information and curate it, context, which means I need to know the context. I need to know all the history and and ideation, which means like ideas just kind of swirl around me all the time.
Well,
Those are my top 5.
being a Bible teacher, I think the context is pretty important.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite sayings that I stole it from a friend when I'm teaching the Bible is a subtext without a context is nothing but a pretext.
Oh, I like that. I like
Because
that.
you can't just take a verse out of the Bible and decide that you know what it means. You have
Well,
to,
and people do that all the time. We find
and
that
they do,
happening.
yes.
That's how we
And
justify. That's how we justify our bad behavior.
that's how we end up with sayings like, God won't give you more than you can handle.
Right.
Which is absolutely not what the Bible says.
No.
That whole section is about temptation and sin.
Exactly. That's in. Yeah. I remember I read that one recently too. I'm a I know as a pastor's wife, as a Bible teacher, I'm guessing you're in the word every day. But a recent poll taken said that of all the people that claim to be Christians, we have maybe 5% are actually in the word on a regular basis, which is disheartening, which is, you could see how that plays out in our world today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Biblical illiteracy is very, very high, especially in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, tell us how you ended up writing, where this started from. Give us a little background on that. Did you just wake up one day and say, ooh, I'm going to write a book?
Well, I've always written since I was a little girl. I was a bookworm, which is kind of how I found Jesus, because somebody had given me a Bible as a gift and I ran out of books to read.
Oh, wow.
And I sat down and read it as if it was a story. I just read the whole thing.
How old were you when you did that?
8
Wow.
or 9. And I used to talk to him in my bed at night, but I didn't realize that was praying. Like
So did you grow up in a Christian family, or did you?
I did, but it wasn't like it wasn't explained.
Mhm.
It was more routine, it was more ritual. And so it wasn't explained.
Yeah.
Like because I go back now to funerals and stuff with the family, and there's so much scripture in the service, but nobody understands what it means.
Right.
I'm sitting there weeping, and they're all looking at me like, "Why?
What's the matter with you?
Like
Yeah.
the word, like."
Well, and if you don't, unless you do have the Holy Spirit, you're not going to understand the depth of the word anyway. It's just
Right.
to you, it's just words. So that makes all the difference too. And your husband, you said he's a pastor. Is
Yes.
that a full-time volition for him?
No, he's bivocational.
Okay.
Yeah,
What
he
does he
doesn't
do?
get paid to be a pastor.
Okay. What does he do other than that?
He's a Shipt shopper.
He's a what?
Shipt, SHIPT. It's an app that you download on your phone, and then you do your grocery shopping, and somebody goes and picks up all your groceries and delivers them to you.
I never heard of a thing.
Yeah, he started doing it as a side job at his last pastor assignment, where he was getting a small salary, but it just wasn't enough and so he was just trying to make some extra money, and it was easy. And now he's been doing it for 6 years, and he makes enough to
Wow.
support us doing that.
Wow. That's amazing. Shift
It is
shopper. Huh.
Shipt,
Never.
yeah.
Shift. Never heard of it. Shift.
Shipt. It's like SHIPPED,
Oh,
but
shift.
they took the ED off it and they put a
Put a
T.
T. Gotcha. Shipped. Gotcha. Okay.
I hesitate to say it because sometimes people think I'm saying a bad word.
Don't say it too fast.
Really enunciate that P.
That's right. You can really enunciate that. So we were talking earlier. So you were born in Florida.
I was.
Your dad was a Navy man. So you were all over the place. So she was telling me earlier that even though she's been in Alaska, she was in Alaska for 17 years of her life. Explain when you guys were in, I believe you said it when you guys were in, when you said Arabia, right?
Saudi Arabia. Yeah, well, my dad retired the Navy when I was 5, and he got a job with Mobil Oil, which kept us in Alaska. And when they built the pipeline in Saudi Arabia, they needed people to come train their men how to run the pipeline. So my dad went over to train his counterpart how to do the job that he did. So we were there for 2 years, and every 6 months, since he was there on a work visa, we had to leave the country for 2 weeks. And it was very, very cheap to travel from there. And so we went everywhere during those
So
2 weeks.
tell me a couple places you've gone, because I would love to travel more, but
My favorite vacation, and I didn't know this at the time, but this was 2 weeks after Hosni Mubarak took over Egypt in a coup. We
Mhm.
took a cruise down the Nile River.
Oh, really?
And there was one old couple on the boat and them and my family. Like
Oh, that was it?
the boat was empty
Oh, wow.
because nobody was traveling to Egypt
Right.
because of the
Because of
coup.
that.
My dad was a Navy guy and he was kind of like, we're gonna go. We already got the tickets, we already got the visas, we have to leave the country.
Might as well. Well, that's pretty incredible then.
So
Oh,
we
wow.
had a tour guide. Like the older couple never went on the tours of the ruins. It was just our family. And there was this tour guide and he knew everything. He knew all the stories about all the ruins. And I just followed him around like a puppy dog.
That's pretty cool.
Because like there was no line at King Tut's tomb. And if you ask anyone that's been there, like you have to stand in line for hours. There was nobody
Wow.
there. There
That's a
was
once in a lifetime trip.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I was so fascinated by Egyptian history. I'm high context. So like all that history just fascinates me. So that was one of my favorite vacations ever.
So tell me then a little bit about your writing. We were talking about this. This is how the whole Write Better, Faster, Clifton Strengths came up. About what does your writing schedule look like? I mean, you're not a butt in the chair girl, right?
Well, here's what I do. And I've worked out this process over about a year of coaching. Every day when I'm done writing, I write down notes, bullet points to myself of what I think is going to happen next, or what I think should happen next. It's not a full outline. It's just bullet points. And at night before I go to bed, I review my notes because something happens when you have high intellection like I do. Something happens when I'm sleeping, and my brain writes it while I'm sleeping. I can't explain it.
Wow.
Like I've had times where I had no clue. I just wrote, "This needs to happen." And I went to bed and I woke up and it was just there. So then I block off 8 to 12 every day from my writing career. So it doesn't have to be writing, but I do spend it on my writing career in some way. So like right now it's between 8 and 12,
Right.
and I'm interviewing with you, so that's allowed. Sometimes I play like mindless little games on my phone right after I've looked at my notes for what I want, because I like if I feel like I can't write, then I'll do something mindless, wash the dishes, go for a walk, take a nap, play a mindless game.
To clear your mind a little bit so the
And
ideas will
the
take.
wheels of my mind are going in the background. And then as soon as I feel like I can write, I start to write.
Wow. So is it 8 to 12 every day of the week?
Monday through Thursday.
Yeah.
Because Fridays I am a co-host of a podcast. And so the Fridays are for the podcast.
And what is the name of your podcast?
The Christian Indie Writers Podcast. And
Wow.
we have some fun, and we also try to inform other indies like ourselves, like different things that they might want to learn. Sometimes it's craft, sometimes it's publishing,
Well,
sometimes
maybe you
it's
can send me
marketing.
your link for that and I'll add that in the show notes so we can get people to link over to that. And there are a lot, I probably more than half the people that I interview are indie authors. They're not traditionally published.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I'm sure
we just formed the podcast we wished that we could find back in the day that didn't
yeah,
exist then.
right.
The kind of podcasts that we were looking for, they were not faith-based, and you wouldn't want to listen to them with your children
Right.
in the room because their language and some of the subject matter that they would discuss. And so we just became the podcast that we wanted.
That's a great idea. And also I think it helps indie authors to have somewhere to go for answers and to be inspired and to, I don't think I'm brave enough to be an indie author, but anybody who is, I applaud. I applaud them. So talk about a little bit about like your writing. I'm curious, your writing, are you self-taught? Have you gone to conferences? Have you taken any classes? And how
No,
have you trained yourself to write well?
I'm a number one learner. And so I have an addiction to taking courses.
Oh.
I have a decision tree that I
Mhm.
have to use to decide whether this course is something that I need to take
Or
or
you
if
just
it's
want.
something that I want to take, because I want to take them all. One summer I took a course in web coding. Like,
Oh,
I don't know why. I didn't want to be a coder. It was free. Like they said, do you want to take this free course?
like, why
And
not?
well, I have a website. Maybe it could help me.
Did you design your website?
I did.
Well, then obviously it can help you.
Well, it was a kind of a different thing. It was like actually writing the code. I didn't actually
Oh,
write the code for my website. So yeah, I always took creative writing in school and in college. I took creative writing, and I've been writing since I was a kid. And I used to write these serial soap operas for the kids in school, and I would bring them in and they would read them.
how
Um,
fun.
and then when I got this idea, I really felt that God was calling me to write a novel. And I was like, wow, everything I've ever written has been like maximum 5,000 words.
Short stories.
Yeah, I have no clue how to write a novel. Because it's not just a series of short stories that you can lump
Right.
together.
They've got to fit.
Yeah. And so I started I first started writing during NaNoWriMo. I'm sure everyone knows what
Oh
that
yeah.
is.
NaNoWriMo.
I ended up with like 120,000 words that went nowhere.
Wow. But you
Um,
wrote
yeah. And then I just started taking little courses here and there um, on writing. I took some master classes. Um, I did SPF 101, which is self-publishing formula 101, which
Mhm.
is more about the publishing side. Um, I've taken like Amazon ad courses. I took a course from Stuart Bache, who designs book covers for people like the C.S. Lewis estate, on cover design, and I did my own covers.
Well, taking the classes is done. It's done you well. Then it's been a benefit.
Yeah, so like everybody said, don't design your own covers. And see, that's the reason I have to be an indie, because I don't want anyone else to tell me what my cover should look like, or that I can't put this in the book, or
Right.
I've always been like that. You don't tell me what to do, because then I won't do it. Or if you tell me not to do something, I'm bound to do it. Like that's just like my personality.
See,
And
I'm
so
like the opposite. It's like, just tell me what you want and I'll do it. Just tell me.
if I tell myself what to do, I rebel. So I can't make
Have a
my
little
own.
argument with yourself there.
I can't like have self-imposed deadlines, because I will not do it.
Oh, you know what I found is I've had to let go of control, because I will write quite a bit and I'll get on where I'm doing so many words. I'm okay. If I keep this pace up, I can have this many chapters done in this amount of time. And invariably when I do that, when I try to jump ahead of God, he puts a block there. Something happens, either an illness or an emergency or something throws me back. And I'm like, every time I start to think that way now, I have to say no, because God's going to take it away from me. Just
That just happened to me this week, because I was thinking 20,000 words. If I write 2,000 words a day, I can have it done in 10 days.
if you
So,
write every day of the week.
right. And so then Monday, I wrote 973 words, and then my brain was like, okay, it's time to go think.
Oh, yeah, you
So I
can't
didn't,
control that.
right. And then I got sick. And so I've been sick. I didn't write yesterday or Tuesday. So
So that's what happens when we try to control it. So,
yeah.
so I got to go back to NaNoWriMo. The one thing I really have a problem with, and I haven't done it and this is why they chose November, the beginning of the holiday season, when everybody's preparing for Thanksgiving and you have all this stuff going on. Why they chose that month to me is ridiculous. It's like, why not October? You know, why not February? Why not some month that we're not preparing for the whole holiday season? Because
Yeah, a lot of people.
hard for people. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, can we change it? You know, why the
Which is why I've only won it like twice, because the holidays, and now I have grandchildren, and
yeah, there's other things to do during that month. That's a hard
Yeah.
month. That in
my
December.
daughter had a baby on November 4th this year, so I
You're
did
gonna do
really
right.
well for 3 days.
Then you're off to the child stuff.
Yeah.
Well, so let's see. I want to see if I have any other questions for you, or do you have any information for me, or
Well, I just wanted to mention about the books. Like, I try to have a biblical theme in each of my books. So, like, book 1 is grace versus the law.
okay.
So then book 2 is now Angelica, my main character, has found the Lord, and now she's going to go through like the process of growing in the Lord. And so book 2 is about forgiveness and what happens when we don't forgive. And so there's multi-layers in there too. There's different characters. Some of them can't forgive themselves for something. So some of them can't forgive other people, and some of them do forgive. And so you can see like the differences and the layers of forgiveness. And then this book 3 is going to be about unshakable faith.
Which is why it's called Shaken.
Yeah, and Alaska. There's going to be an earthquake. It's Alaska.
Oh yeah. Okay. So there's a little what do we call that? Spoiler alert there.
Yeah.
An earthquake.
It's going to be in the blurb, so it's not that big of a spoiler.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay then. So we have biblical themes in all of those. We have I'm just the way your mind works. I'm interested now. I want to really read what you have just to see how your mind works, because it's fascinating.
Well, if you figure it out, let me know.
I'll do that. Did you actually when you talked about having the Write Better Faster, or the Clifton Strengths, did you actually take coached by this person, or did you just take this?
Yeah, it was a class called Write Better Faster 101 is how I started. And then they give you the Clifton Strengths test and the Myers-Briggs and the DISC. And I think we did the Enneagram. And then so she like takes your entire personality and talks about like the one thing that you want to work on to develop into a better writer.
Write down because I have a bachelor's in psychology. And so before I have Myers-Briggs books here, I've got the Enneagram. I have tested everybody in my family to the point where they just sort of say, leave me alone. I don't want any more testing done. But I would normally go through I use the Enneagram. I think it's easier than Myers-Briggs, but go through the Enneagram and get a feeling for an issue in the book, or an issue with the main character and what they're dealing with, what personality best fits that issue.
Yeah, I've done that too.
I'm not always great at keeping with it. I start there, and sometimes it goes off, but have you ever read there's the Enneagram, is the Christian Enneagram book? It's pretty interesting.
I might have, because there's a lady that in our denomination that goes around to the churches, and she gives out a couple books.
This is a pretty big one, and it's all in the Enneagram, but it's like our where they have in the Enneagram, it's like where you tend to go to. Like my husband is a 9. He's a peacemaker all the way through. And if you want to look at Gary Chapman did the animals, he's like a total golden retriever, but when you go through the Enneagram, it talks about that way you are is part of your sin nature. Like you tend to be, and actually somebody who's a peacemaker has a sin nature of anger deep below the surface. So it's just interesting. It changes it up a little bit. It makes it a little more involved to try to figure out the personalities, but it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by that kind of stuff.
No, me too. It's like trying to figure people out, try to assess who they are and why they do the way. And it helped me. I was a teacher, a middle school teacher for years, and it really helped me to look at my students that were having problems and see them from a different perspective, not just as a teacher to a student, but see what their home life was they're dealing with and the anger issues they had and why they had them. And it just made me, I think, felt a more compassionate teacher. Knowing that, having that background, I think helps. So
Yeah, knowing that about your children, I homeschooled, so it helped me, you know, all my kids are so different.
right.
And the youngest one was an accelerated learner, and trying to challenge him, like without him totally breaking down, you know, it was a challenge.
Right, right. Makes it harder. Makes it
Yeah.
harder. Well, anything
If
last
you're
word?
interested in the if you're interested in the Right Better Faster thing, she has a podcast called the Quit Cast, QUIT cast. And then that's free. You wouldn't have to pay for the course. And
Okay,
she talks about a lot of that stuff if you wanted to get a taste for it.
I might look that up. Well, you can go on there and you can probably take that test anyway, right?
Yeah,
On
you
that.
don't have to be part of the Quit Cast or the right. Yeah, anybody can go on Gallup and take the test.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Thank you. And these last things you want to leave us with, Christina?
Um, no, I don't think so. I think that we've covered a lot.
Covered it all. Okay, well, so this book comes out in May, and this is when
Yeah.
we'll be publishing this podcast, and I will make sure y'all have all the show notes that need to go in there so that you're able to reach Christina's books and get to them easy. You don't have to go searching so hard for them. And I wish you the best, and I hope you get over your cold real soon, and you're back to writing those words that you want to write.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to get this done because I have this great idea for my next series.
Oh, really? Tell us just a little bit about that real quick. We have a couple more minutes.
It's I think the main character is going to be a geneticist who works in this lab, and the scientists in this, I don't know if it's going to be actual Earth or it's going to be an Earth-like planet, find a way to capture an angel, and they extract the angel's DNA and they manipulate babies that they've created in a
Like to
test.
clone it?
No, they're just gonna, like, if you take a embryo that's already formed in a test tube, you can
Right.
add seeds, like seed DNA in to change different aspects.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so it's actually probably not ethical. Like there's
Oh,
like
yeah, I know.
there's a lot of controversy around this, but they do that. They take the genetic material of the angel and they put a seed of it into these test tube babies. And the geneticist, one of those babies, was actually his child, the geneticist's child, because he used his own genetic material to create the embryo. And he takes the baby and escapes
Oh, you've got a wild imagination.
from the lab. So it's kind of an anti-Christ kind of a revelations kind of thing.
Okay, well,
It's just an idea now, so it's like not fully fleshed out, but
still just having that idea, I'm impressed. It's just a little crazy, but that's where good writers come from. They come up with something that nobody else can think. I could never think that way. I wish I had a mind that could think like that, but I can't.
this is why
That's why I don't do fantasy. That's what I can't. If I can't feel like I can live in it, I have a hard time reading it. If I can't put myself in that.
Yeah.
But
that's why I can't write romance, because it's too predictable.
Yeah, because at the end you do,
My friends tried to make me write a romance for my podcast. The co-hosts they came up with the plot and the characters and the setting and all that, and tried to make me write a romance during Nano. And at the end, my main character pushed her love interest off a cliff.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so at least the ending should have a romantic ending. My the romance I put in my books are not typical. They're way different, but they do get together at the end. So that is, the formula, but I don't like the Hallmark Hall of Fame,
right.
Formulated to me that there's nothing in there that interests me, but
right. I do like writing romance into my books, but to write a romance for romance sake.
Oh, see, I don't do that either. Mine are not considered romance, although I am planning on shifting over to romantic suspense, but that still will be the suspense will be the main part of the book and the romance will be the after effect, so I'm not real good at the whole googly eyed, looking in each other's eyes kind of thing. It just doesn't do anything for me. So
I have a plot point that I have to write in the next couple weeks where they finally find each other again. And what I've written in my notes is much mushy stuff.
you're gonna have to break down and put something else in there, Just put in parentheses, imagination your own, and then move on. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Well, it's been a pleasure, Christina, to talk to you today. I really hope you feel better soon and get back so you can spend some time with that little grandbaby of yours. And it's been a real joy. So the best of luck to you. And I guess that's it.